Alright, you naughty little ravers. I haven't touched decks since 1997, and next week I'm going to buy a completely modern DJ setup and start again at 48. I'm Matt, and I'm no DJ.
Look, ChatGPT made me a logo.
My first very limited attempt, however, was in my teens. I'm 48 years old. I work as a quality manager for a local company. I'm married, I've got kids, live on the Isle of Man. And I have a pretty normal life, really. I'm probably fairly typical Gen X, having grown up through the 80s and 90s. We didn't have smartphones or social media. Things were different back then. And like a lot of teenagers probably still feel today, everything just felt a little bit tame and diluted. From my early teens, though, the whole UK rave scene was exploding.
Frequency.
We had The Prodigy, Alternate, SL2, 808 State, Orbital, and so much more. And that music absolutely grabbed me. It felt rebellious, different, anti-establishment, and fresh. And when you're a teenager living on a small island, finding something like that, it grips you, it means something. Every generation has their own counterculture movement. You had rock and roll in the 50s, hippies in the 60s, punk in the 70s, and rave culture was ours. And, of course, as they always do, politicians and newspapers were treating it like the next great evil that would destroy the country and completely obliterate the youth. Precisely how to make us love it even more. A group of us all got into the scene and started trying to mix at around the same time. I saved like mad, bought a set of Technics 1210s when I was about 15 years old, around 1993 or 94. My setup was them, a cheap second-hand analog mixer, and some speakers that I'd pulled off an old stereo system that was getting thrown away. I eventually learned to beat match reasonably well, but honestly, I don't even think I knew what the equalizer knobs did. I wasn't some amazing DJ. I played for fun in my bedroom or occasionally at a mate's house. Most of the time, it was just match the beats or try to and hope for the best. But I loved it. I had a job in a petrol station and spent basically every penny I earned on vinyl and going to under-18s clubs. I built up a reasonably big vinyl collection at the time of house, rave, jungle, trance. And wow, some of those records would probably be worth a fortune now. In my late teens, I left the Isle of Man and I moved to Glasgow to study and eventually become a merchant navy engineer. I was away a lot, I needed money, and life changed. So eventually I sold the decks and the vinyl, I think around 1998 or 99. When I was at college, I made a new group of friends, more into indie music, and I switched to guitar because it was more portable and easier to travel with. So over time, the whole Raven House music scene slowly disappeared from my life. I was away working at sea a lot of the time, and by the time I came back home years later, the whole music scene had changed. A lot of the stuff that was coming out felt overly commercial and watered down, and I completely lost touch with anything underground. And then eventually, music as a whole started drifting into the background and adulting took over. I was running a small business. Around the same time, a couple of amazing kids came along, and life happened. Then recently, something unexpected happened. In late 2025, I discovered the mix feature on Spotify. I started playing with it a lot, and I was thinking about how much fun we used to have being bedroom DJs back then. So I started rebuilding my own old vinyl collection from memory, track by track. And then, like a flash, something suddenly reignited. I remembered exactly why I loved all of this stuff in the first place. At the same time as discovering the old tunes, I started finding new artists through Spotify recommendations. I realized maybe the scene hadn't disappeared. Maybe I just completely stopped paying attention and lost touch with where to find the good stuff. I've always needed some kind of creative outlet. So during lockdown, I tried learning piano as an adult. I bought a good instrument and I progressed to a reasonable standard, but I realized after a few years I was never going to get to where I wanted to be with it. So early this year I made a decision. I sold the piano and I'm going back to what I first loved. Selling the decks made perfect sense at the time, but losing the record still hurts me to this day. If I still had them, I'd probably just go and buy my old setup again, but that's the way things go. No point in dwelling on what can't be changed. Anyway, next week, I'm off to Manchester, check out all the modern gear and spend some money. Probably spend too much money, to be honest. Some people might call it a midlife crisis, but honestly, it doesn't feel like that. It feels more like reconnecting with something I loved but lost touch with because life got in the way. I've got no regrets, but now I'm starting again. From scratch, at 48, with technology I barely understand, and I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. And while that should be scary, it's really exciting. Even if I turn out to be absolutely terrible at this, if I can reconnect with some old music, discover some new killer tunes and good artists, and just have some fun along the way, that's good enough for me. So I'm going to start this channel to document the whole journey. The mistakes, the learning, the chaos, probably a huge amount of me banging my head against a wall, but hopefully also some progress. So, next week I'm off to buy the kit. Hopefully I won't screw it up at the first hurdle. What the hell am I getting myself into? Stick around if you want to find out.